It's the Mitch Walker Show with the Doctor. If you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, tune into the Disney Channel. And now, the man with a mind for statistics. Unfortunately, those statistics are usually odds on ponies in Vegas. Mitch the Doctor Walker.
All right. Hey, welcome back. It is Monday night. We know what that means. It's time for the Mitch Walker Show. So, tickled to death that you're here, man. We've got a big show coming at you tonight. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. Got my buddy Chuck Becker is going to be sitting in with us, and we're going to review a couple of things. But tell you what, before we go any further, let's do what we do each and every week, and we have since early on in the show. That's our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. It is also with a very heavy heart that we have to announce that the Raging Cajun himself, Mr. Jason Johnson, passed away after a severe crash up in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, with the World of Outlaws this past Saturday night. Johnson was just a phenom behind the wheel of a sprint car. Great guy, and 41 years old. Another one gone too soon. We'll be talking about him a little bit later on. And seen some legends this past Saturday night at North Georgia Speedway. Went over for the Night of Legends and Past Champions. And it was a lot of fun. I got to see my buddy Chris Zimmerman. Him and his dad, Charles, came over. Drug along Racer Dave Wright. Had him up there. Gene Stinson was there. Steve Anderson. Leon Brindle. Bugs Reddix. The list goes. Dennis Johnson. Bobby Hanshaw. I know I'll probably miss one, but there was a bunch of them there. Had a great time listening to them talk and tell stories and sign autographs. And I think Charlie said it had been 20 years since he had been back at North Georgia Speedway. And I know it had been 20 years since Chris had got in one, and he got in one to run a race. And I went over. I did not go to announce. I went only to take pictures, and I had a ball taking pictures. So kind of, you don't get to watch much racing if you're taking pictures, but that's what I had a ball doing. But we'll be talking about that and some other things that happened over there Saturday night. And we're going to talk about some young guns coming up through the ranks. We're going to talk about some safety. We're going to talk about some sponsors. Got a lot of things we're going to be talking about. So, you know, when me and Chuck get together, let me rephrase that. When Chuck and I get together, you never know what's going to come up because we ain't scared. And we will flat put it out there and let her roll. Don't forget, if you don't have your Pioneer Pages subscription, you need to get one. And if you don't have your Garhoff license tag, you need to get that too. Because I've got one, and everybody wants to be cool like me. But no, seriously, it's a great way to help preserve the history of the sport, and that's one of the things that is our mission statement here on the Mitch Walker Show, is to help preserve history of auto racing in the state of Georgia and the United States all around. So that's just what we do. But anyway, we're going to step out. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have Mr. Chuck Becker sitting in here with us, and we'll get revved up. We'll let the clutch out, and we'll just let the rough side drag and let her eat. So don't go nowhere. It's the Mitch Walker Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the Doctor, and you'll find me exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speeds, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
HMS Motorsport is the leader in motorsport safety. HMS serves the majority of Monster Energy NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World truck teams, many IndyCar and IMSA WeatherTech teams, as well as countless SCCA and club-level racers and driving enthusiasts throughout North America. Featuring world-renowned brands like Stilo helmets, Schroep belts, Adidas suits and shoes, HJC helmets, Orica driver gear, Lifeline fire systems, and even Racecom radio kits, HMS representatives are knowledgeable and focused on only one thing: making your track driving as safe as possible. With locations in Mooresville, North Carolina, and Danvers, Massachusetts, the staff at HMS is always ready to take the time and help you find the right product for your safety needs. Don't settle for second when it comes to motorsport safety. Stop in to HMS Motorsport. Visit them on their website at hmsmotorsport.com or send them a message on Facebook and tell them the folks from PMN Radio sent you.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
The Rock says, know your role and listen to the damn Mitch Walker Show.
That's right. I'll tell you what, you gotta love a creative producer, and we are lucky enough to have Brad behind the glass and tickled to death to have him back. And I knew this was going to be a special combination. But joining us also from out there on the West Coast is Mr. Chuck Becker.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
Man, I'm finding a frog hair split three ways. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic, Mitch. Hey, as long as I got you on the phone, I wanted to let you know that I have sent you an advertisement package. In this package, you're going to find pictures of our IMCA modified, a list of tracks that we race, a average of the last 10 races of what the attendance has been at each of these tracks, the social media that we cover. And what I was sending all these things and putting these numbers together for was for you to possibly take 10 minutes, look at our package, and maybe see your advertising department and see if you might want to join a list of people that already advertise with our racing program. As you know, we've also got an enclosed trailer, so we've got a potential rolling billboard that goes down the road. The people that already advertise with us are Lucas Oil, Carpet Station, Randy Thornell Racing Engines, Huss Trucking, PRE 2.0, Edmore Drivelines, Twisted Chassis, A First Impression, and then we also have a special group that's Thumbs Up for a Cure. It's kids with cancer. It'll only take maybe 10 minutes, and if you have any questions or concerns or anything, you can contact me at 888-888-8888, and I really appreciate any time that you might be able to put into this, and maybe we can move forward. And if not, thank you very much for your time.
Now, see, I don't know how many drivers out there had their pencil and paper out and was taking notes, but you should have been. Because that right there is the perfect way to get your foot in the door. No, you're not going to get told yes every time, but when you come off as professional, you're not sitting there stuttering and stammering, and you come off with a professional approach. You tell people what you're doing, what you got going on, and what you want. Then you lay it all out there in just a very distinct method, and presto, that's one way to get your foot in the door. Chuck Becker, you are the man.
I thought about that all day today, Mitch. I was hoping you'd give me a couple minutes there to throw it out there. But one of the most important things that most businesses want to see is the people that are going to see their advertisement. They want to know what they're going to get for their money, because they work hard for their money too, and they want to know that they're going to have a comeback on, some sort of comeback on if they spend $100 per race, they want to know that they're going to be able to make some money that comes back to help pay for that, or to make it worth their time, because their time is definitely important to them, just like ours is to us. And you may put it out to say 100 proposals, and if you get one back, you know what? That's a win.
That's right. And like you said, businesses are looking for a return on their investment. They may not expect a check from you coming back every week, but they are getting a return by the exposure that you give them. And in giving them exposure, every company in the world wants to be a positive company. They want to have positive feedback, positive information. They want positivity. And when you come off with an approach like that, and you present them a professional program, that's positive. And to let them know that you'd be happy to represent them and their products on the scale that you laid out in your 2-minute proposal there, you're letting them know what they're getting that they're getting some bang for their buck. And in today's market, it is really hard to get sponsors to jump on board. Now, years ago, you could always get Joe Blow to Ragman's Amoco station down on the corner. He'd give you a free oil change or some gas for your tow truck, and that would hook you up. And you get a couple of gas stations, maybe a greasy joint, a burger joint or two on your car, and you're cooking with gas. But nowadays, it takes a whole lot more than that. And the program that you decide to run, you can't, unless you're filthy rich and you're going to run it out of your own pocket. You got to get some assistance in there, and that's the best way to do it. Like you done right there.
Right. It's it's not easy. It's one of the harder things to do in any professional sport, but especially in racing. A good portion of the people that have businesses, a lot of them don't understand racing, or they don't know what it is. And you know what? Maybe invite them out to come see what your program is. If they call you back or they give you a conversation, invite them out to see what's going on. See the people that are out there. See what's going on at the racetrack. But if you get that to happen, you damn sure better act professional when they're around. Because those people are going to ask questions.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because this past weekend we had past champions night at North Georgia Speedway, and it was kind of a reunion for me and my old buddy Chris Zimmerman. When we were racing together, we had Napa, CNN Trucking, Shade Masters, and that's what was on our car. Well, I knew someone who worked at Badcock Furniture, and we got them to come on board. They kicked in a little money here and there, and through that, we landed a local radio station, WQMT. And here's where it got creative. QMT didn't want to give up any cash, but what they did do, they give us air spots. And we traded exposure on on Chris's race car for air spots. And it worked out really good. We done some live remotes, done a couple of those for the radio station. Get to sit out on a Saturday afternoon, meet the fans, talk racing, invite them to the racetrack. It was a big win-win situation for everybody. I don't think we really got a whole lot out of it, I mean, from our standpoint, but it worked out really well for everybody that was involved because everybody got what they were looking for. And, you know, it don't have to be money that a sponsor puts out. I mean, they can put out product, they can put out services. There's a lot of things that sponsors have to offer, and that's where you have to get creative in as much as, you know, you don't go to Joe Billy Bob, the window washer, and tell him, hey, I need $400 a week from you, you know, to sponsor my race car. You go to him and say, well, hey, you know, check it out. If you can talk to some of your customers who you wash windows for, you get me hooked up with one or two of them that'll give me, you know, a little bit of cash or a little bit of product or a little bit of service here on the side. Well, then I've got a spot back here on my back quarter panel. I can put your name. And that's the whole secret to it, is to get creative and to work together and network and try to bring as many people together on the same page as you can.
Absolutely. You just hit on the main word for it is network. Network, you know. And here's another thing. If you get some of these smaller businesses and they come on with the best of intentions, and let's say 5 races in, they're going to help you out with say $100 race, you know, to help you with pit passes or whatever the case may be. And then they come upon a little bit of hard times. Don't dare take their name off the car because they come across a hard time. You say, you know what? It's okay. You've helped me out here. So now I'm going to continue to help you out. And then when you're able to, we just continue to move forward because it's not hurting anything to have it on there. So,
yep. And, you know, now that I remember it, there was another sponsor on Chris's car. It was Commercial Door and Hardware. And their name never got on the car. That was that was my business. But anyway, it all worked out. We had a lot of fun doing it. But now let me tell you something real quick. We're coming up on a commercial break, and I know he happens to be listening, so that's why I want to get this in here real quick. Saturday night, they had 4 drivers from the past champions who were willing to jump in a race car and go out and run 10 laps. We had Steve Anderson, Leon Brindle, Chris Zimmerman, and Bobby Hanshaw. Now, Bobby Hanshaw has an old, I believe it's a 37 Chevrolet. I won't, don't quote me on that, but it's an old nostalgia open wheel body. He brought it out. Leon Brindle, who is a fixture around here in the world of racing, he jumped in Ronnie Johnson's number 85 super late model. And Steve Anderson, he jumped in the car of 19-time track champion Gary McPherson. And Chris Zimmerman jumped in a 602 Sportsman car. And I'm thinking, man, he's getting shafted here. And none of these guys had been in race cars in years. And they dropped the green flag, and it was like, oh, my God, ain't none of them lost a step. Chris went out there, and he gave this 602 car a ride. And he was burying it off in the corner, getting it up on the bars. He was just having a ball. He pulled in after the race. He had a grin on his face. Ajax and acetone wouldn't have took off. And Leon, of course, he's 70-something years old. He was out there wheeling a brand-new Capital super late model. He just out for a Sunday afternoon drive. Steve Anderson, he hadn't drove one in probably 15, 16 years. He was out there in Gary Mack's super late model. He was just out there having a ball. And even though these guys were out there getting it in the 2 super late models, they didn't run off and leave Zimmerman. Zimmerman held his own in that little 602 car, and he kept up with him for a long time. But it was a lot of fun, and a lot of fans got to see it. And it was special for the drivers, and I think each and every one of them absolutely had a ball. But tell you what, we're up on the commercial break. We're going to step out and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be all revved up and talking some more about sponsors. We're going to talk about some safety stuff. And we're going to talk about racers' attitudes. That's one thing some of these young guns today could probably learn a lot from. So don't go nowhere. It's the Mitch Walker Show with me, your host, Mitch Walker, and my special guest, Mr. Chuck Becker from out there on the left coast. And you'll find us exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Do you love the sound of high revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
HMS Motorsport is the leader in motorsport safety. HMS serves the majority of Monster Energy NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World Truck teams, many IndyCar and IMSA WeatherTech teams, as well as countless SCCA and club-level racers and driving enthusiasts throughout North America. Featuring world-renowned brands like Stilo helmets, Schroep belts, Adidas suits and shoes, HJC helmets, Orca driver gear, Lifeline fire systems, and even Racecom radio kits, HMS representatives are knowledgeable and focused on only one thing: making your track driving as safe as possible. With locations in Mooresville, North Carolina, and Danvers, Massachusetts, the staff at HMS is always ready to take the time and help you find the right product for your safety needs. Don't settle for second when it comes to motorsport safety. Stop in to HMS Motorsport. Visit them on their website at hmsmotorsport.com or send them a message on Facebook and tell them the folks from PMN Radio sent you.
What an awesome game. What's up with your car? I don't know. It won't start. How are we getting home?
Chill. My parents signed me up for the roadside assistance from Lewis Meineke. It was free with my oil change. They'd come and get the car started or get us home and tow the car to the shop.
Good to know. With my driving, my parents never know what to expect.
When you join the Meineke Car Care Club with a $35 preferred service, you get 4 free months of roadside assistance, including tire change, battery jump, lockout service, towing, and more. Contact Lewis Meineke, located on Route 1, or call 827-2054.
When do you think of a plumber? Like most people, even if it's an emergency, you can be confident about who will arrive to help you. For quality and reliability, count on someone you can trust. Call on the plumbing services of Hague Quality Water of Maryland. Plumbing doesn't have to be an emergency. We handle all kinds of preventative maintenance too. Hague Quality Water of Maryland is family owned here in Annapolis since 1993. For a refreshing choice, call us at 888-84-WATER or visit us online.
COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is a lung disease that robs people of their ability to breathe. As many as 24 million Americans suffer from COPD, also known as chronic bronchitis or emphysema, and half of them don't know they have the disease. If you or someone you love is over 35 and has smoked more than 100 cigarettes in their lifetime, visit driveforcopd.org and take the screener, then take that to your doctor. I'm Jeff Stoltz, and I drive for COPD.
Results? We've got your results right here. It's the Mitch Walker Show. Now back to the doctor, exclusively on the Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, welcome back. You know, we were talking right there before we went to break about some of the old drivers and watching them and listening to them. You know, one of the things that I noticed sitting up there listening to some of these legends, and, you know, there's a few of them that really and truly are legends, like Racer Dave Wright. Every aspect of racing, Racer Dave's been involved in it. I'm extremely proud to call him a friend of mine. Leon Brindle, Charlie Zimmerman, Chris Zimmerman, all these guys were sitting up there. And the thing was, I know all of them away from the racetrack as well. And there's not a lot of difference. I mean, what you see is what you get with most of them. But the one thing I did notice, and I noticed this especially with Chris, when they started talking about signing autographs, Chris ran over there and grabbed a Sharpie, and he's ready. It wasn't like he was dodging or he was hiding. He was there to engage the fans. He was there to share memories and talk about the old times and how it used to be and how much fun they used to have. And to share with the younger generation the joys and the dreams that racing brought him. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of racers don't realize. They get caught up in everything's a win-win. We got to win. We got to win. Got to do this. Got to do that. And really and truly, all you got to do is go out there and have a good time. But when you can share that good time with a youngster, and you can share that good time with a new fan, and show them that racing can be fun. Racing's supposed to be fun. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, it costs a lot of money. But it's entertainment. And that's the name of the game, is entertaining the fans and the drivers having a good time while they're doing it.
Well, Mitch, I don't even know where to approach that from, but you're absolutely correct, because I've had some of the worst nights that kids coming out of the stands or just wanting to come down and take pictures with the car or things like that can completely change the worst night, into one of the happiest. There a couple races ago, I think I ended up third or fourth, and some people came down from the stands that had never been to races or anything, and they saw the paint scheme on, their graphics on the car and stuff. And I look around, and everybody else was gone. They were all gone from the front straightaway, and I still got this group of people that had never been to the racetrack of about 25 that were all out there on the front straightaway, and all the kids are getting in the car and getting back out and taking pictures. Man, I had a blast. I lost all track of time, and it made the whole night worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've told this story before, but when I was racing, I had probably 3 or 4 weeks in a row of some of the absolute worst luck one individual could have. One night, oil filter came off. I mean, what's the chances of that happening? Next time, it was something stupid like a fuel line came loose. Then it was something stupid like a wheel nut came off. And it's like it put me in the pits every single night, and ended my night. And I had like 3 or 4 of these nights in a row. And we got done with the racetrack. I was tired. I was hot. I was just filthy, nasty. I said, let's go eat and go home. Let's just get this night over with. So we loaded the car in a box. Off we went. We went to Curly Jones. I'll never forget it, on Alondra Boulevard in city of Paramount. We walk in, and I had biscuits and gravy on my mind, because Curly Jones at that time was about the only place in Southern California where you could get actual, real, true biscuits and gravy. And I just wanted comfort food, and I wanted to go home. And I was really seriously thinking about giving up. I mean, I'd had enough bad luck. I was done. And we walked in, we sat down, and we ordered our food. And I looked, and there was a bunch of people sitting a few tables over from us, and they were all wearing like Tony Simon. One guy had a Tony Simon shirt on. One guy had a Dean Thompson shirt on. One guy had a Jimmy Oskey shirt on. One of the women had on a Brad Knopfsinger shirt. And I'm thinking, yep, they was at the races. Well, about this time, I'm not paying any attention. This little kid, probably 7, 8 years old maybe, walked up and he looked at me and he said, "Mister, do you drive a race car?" I said, "Yeah, buddy, I sure do." And I kind of turned to face him, and he looked at me and he said, "Can I have your autograph?" Dude, I was done. Stick a fork in me. I got the kid an autograph. I said, which one of those people over there is your parents? And he showed me, and I walked over there and I said, would it be okay if y'all come out and let me take your son out and let him sit in my race car? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, sure. So out the door we went. Hadn't even got my biscuits and gravy yet. Out the door we went. Down comes the door. Out comes the race car. Right there in the parking lot of Curly Jones. I let this kid have anything he wanted. He wanted tear-offs. Here, let me get you a whole stack of them. You want a T-shirt? Here, I got one. I only had like 4, and I give him one of them. I said, here, you want my gloves? You can have my gloves. And I let him sit in the car. Let him sit in the car while we pushed it back in the trailer. Anything this kid wanted, he got. And when we got done, we were getting ready to walk back inside. I looked at him and I said, you know something, buddy? That autograph you have right there? He says, yeah. I said, that's my very first one. And he kind of grinned, and I said, that's why it's got 309, number 1, wrote on it. I said, you hang on to that. And his mom walked over and she said, she said, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with my son doing this. She said, you have made his day. And I said, no,
No,
it's the other
not
way
like
around.
you made yours.
I said, because I've had nothing but bad luck for a month. I said, and that little boy right there just made me smile. I said, he made it all worthwhile. And, many, many, many times riding to the racetrack, I have often wondered whatever happened to that little guy.
Right.
And, I've always wondered, did he get involved in racing? Does he still go? How did he turn out? And I wish I would have gotten his name and number and stayed in touch, but I was so high up on cloud 9 from somebody wanting my autograph. I didn't really think about that,
I got a story kind of like that, Mitch, and it just happened to me just a few weeks ago. And it was really odd because I went down, I went down to the Orange Show just to watch. Sat in the stands, just went, watched the races. When the races were over, I was just walking through the pits, and I saw one of my buddies, and I went over to, say hello to him and stuff. And there was this gentleman walking through, and he had probably his granddaughter, a young lady, probably 7 or 8 years old, and they're walking, and I'm standing there talking to Jeremy, my buddy, and I see them out of the corner of my eye. They're sitting there about probably 15 feet away and something, and the guy's just kind of looking at me. I don't know who he was, but after about 3 minutes, the little girl comes walking up, and she says, would you mind signing my T-shirt for me? Yeah, no problem. I do not know who this gentleman was or who this little girl were.
A lot of things that racers get to see and get to do that I guess a lot of fans don't see the other side of the coin. So many nights we fight a stuck bolt, or so many nights we fight a bent part we don't have the money to replace, and we sit and fret and sweat and worry over how we're going to get another drag link or how we're going to get another spindle. And to get to sit down and share those intimate moments with those little ones, that makes it all worthwhile. Now, Chuck is back now. Now, Chuck, last thing we heard was you caught him out of the corner of your eye.
Right. Okay. It was this gentleman and I'm guessing his granddaughter. And they were, probably 15, 20 feet away, but I seen them, and I'm still talking to Jeremy. And, a couple minutes goes by, and pretty soon this little girl comes walking over, and she's got a marker, and she says, "Sir, would you sign my T-shirt for me?" I got to tell you, not being in a racing uniform and just walking through the pits in street clothes, not being, with anybody, and just, that made my night. It's like, wow. I don't know who these people are, but they obviously know, or recognize me from somewhere, and it was pretty special to me. And you remember stuff like that, and it's like, wow, it makes it worth it. Some of the rough nights we have, and some of the good nights we have can't be topped by those moments.
Oh yeah, exactly. There was a Johnny McClure who won the weekend before in his division at Blue Ridge Motorsports Park when I went over there and announced the sprint car race. He was there Saturday, and his little girl, just the cutest little thing, she has been coming to the dirt track races since she was 2 weeks old. And he said if there would have been a race when she was a week old, she would have been at that one, but there wasn't. So she's been coming since soon as she could go. But she was walking around, and she was having drivers sign her shirt. And she went and asked Chris Zimmerman, she said, "Will you ride on me?" And Chris looked at her like, huh? And her dad was standing there. He said, "Her shirt. She wants you to sign her shirt." And Chris is like, "Oh, okay. And so he signs her shirt, and we're all standing around there. And she walked up and she tapped me on the leg. She looked up at me and she said, "Will you ride on me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we'll get." So I got down there and scrawled my name on her shirt, but I just got a kick out of that. I said, "Will you ride on me?" But it's the kids, and one of the things that I was leaning towards talking to tonight, and I mean, we'll work into it, but is attitude. You get a lot of these youngsters come into this sport, coming up from go-karts. We had an 11-year-old there Saturday night, first time in a big car. He got out there, he made his laps, he stayed out of everybody's way, and he done a good job. He wasn't belligerent, he wasn't loud, he wasn't all cocky. And that's one of the things that some of these younger guys need to learn. When they come into the sport, even though they may come in and start winning right away because they got a big money program behind them, and yeah, they may have some talent, but money goes a long way in some of these lower divisions. And they come in, they win a couple of races, and instantly they get cocky and they get arrogant. And they forget that kids are watching them. And the kids are the future of our sport. And, a lot of these guys, they have to get out there and get their tail whipped 3 or 4 times on a racetrack before it knocks them off that big pedestal that they've put themselves up on. But it makes it fun to watch when the kids are wandering around through the pits, like Johnny's little girl wanting everybody to ride on her. She walked past those guys.
Right.
The ones with the big inflated egos, she walked right past them. And it was like, I don't know if it's a child's discernment or what it is, but she walked up to all the drivers who have been around a while, may not be winning every race, but the ones that she picked out to sign her shirt were the ones that were out there spending time and touching hands with the fans, shaking hands, getting her picture taken. That's the ones that she went and spent time with. And that's what tickled me about it.
Right. Mitch, I've got a lot to say about some of these kids these days. There are some of them that are very talented. They're very good drivers, but they've still got a lot to learn. And just because they're in good equipment, and just because their mommy and daddy are living vicariously through them because, for whatever reason they've got the money now and they couldn't do what they wanting their kids to do when they were that age, they got to remember that there's some people that take this stuff really serious, and when they come along to that person, they're not going to cut them any slack just because they're 13 or 14. And when that happens, they got to remember the other side of it, that they can't play that age card or any of that, because they're going to get treated just like everybody else, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh yeah, and there was one driver. I'm not going to mention the sex of this driver, but this driver, I watched this person at Blue Ridge bounce off just about everything except the water truck. and gets out and acted like they'd had the best night in 100,000 years, and they're running beginners class. And you'd have thought this person had just won the 500, and then they come to North Georgia, and same thing, bouncing off everybody and their brother. And me and another driver, won't mention names again, we're standing down there, and he said, man, if that person done that to me, I'd lift that rear bumper up about a foot and carry him off into the corner a whole lot deeper and a whole lot faster than they wanted to go, and then set them down.
Right.
And then just go on by. But, you
Yeah,
know,
give
that's,
'em that.
that's the experience of a seasoned veteran showing you how to deal with a young, snotty-nosed brat. But
Right.
anyway, we're going to step out and take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll shift gears and we'll keep trucking. Don't go nowhere. It's the Mitch Walker Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the Doctor, and my special guest, Mr. Chuck Becker. And you'll find us right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
When do you think of a plumber? Like most people, even if it's an emergency, you can be confident about who will arrive to help you. For quality and reliability, count on someone you can trust. Call on the plumbing services of Hague Quality Water of Maryland. Plumbing doesn't have to be an emergency. We handle all kinds of preventative maintenance too. Hague Quality Water of Maryland is family owned here in Annapolis since 1993. For a refreshing choice, call us at 888-84-WATER or visit us online.
Here at Lewis Meineke, we're more than just your average car care center. Hey, it's Dave, your neighbor from Lewis Meineke. Whether you need an oil change, brakes, tires, or anything under the hood, we've got you covered. Take advantage of our free check engine light service as well. Yes, free. And don't forget about our free shuttle service. Never stress, we'll take care of the rest. On with life. Give us a call at Lewis Meineke, 302-827-2054.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend. My brother. My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
Do you love the sound of high-revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
It's the Mitch Walker Show. If you're looking for a lot of happy talk and fluff, go watch NASCAR coverage on Fox TV. Now, here's the Doctor, Mitch Walker.
All right, welcome back. You know, when we sit back and we talk about all these things, and we share with the younger generation or some of the fans that don't get to see what goes on behind the scenes, it's one of the things I think that helps to, I guess you could say, spread the word a little bit. And I know that you look at some of these drivers who have had everything handed to them, and they come in, they do really good, and their egos blow up. And then you look at some of these guys that work for everything they've got, and they pour their heart and soul into it. One of them that really pours his heart and soul into it is a young man who I watched just put a whooping on him Saturday night, Booger Brooks. I have been trying to get Booger on my show for 3 years now, and he says, man, your show's on too late. I go to bed early. But I talked to him Saturday night, and we're going to be having some news coming up here soon, so we're going to get Booger on the show. But you watch this young man, he has paid his dues. He has come through the ranks. He's worked his way up. And whenever that 148 car shows up, everybody else gets worried. And the reason that people get worried is because they know they haven't done their homework as good as Booger Brooks did.
That, Mitch, that's true. And I've never personally met Booger, but I am friends with him on Facebook, and I follow what he, some of the stuff he does and all that. He doesn't cherry pick his races. He goes to the big money races for his, for his particular divisions, and he tries to find where the most cars are going to be. And he looks for the competition, and then when everybody else is out at the movies or out with their buddies, he's out in the garage. He's going over his car. He's checking his car. I know he is because you can look, and at the pretty much every other day or so, he'll post what he's looking to do and where he's looking to go, and inviting people to be there and stuff like that. That guy's first class. He's good. He knows what he's doing.
The thing about Booger is generally he's pretty quiet, and he lets his steering wheel do the talking for him. And it's taken a pretty good while, but people are starting to really recognize him on more than just a local level. And I think it's really starting to show. But he is just so much fun to hang out and joke and cut up with. I seen him Saturday night. I was standing on top of the scale house taking pictures, and he come walking over there and climbed up on the scale house, and he had on a brand new fire suit. And I said, "Woo, look at you moving up in the world." He said, "No." He said, "It's just my sponsor." He said, "One of my sponsors says that this is they're protecting their investment." He said, "They've got a lot of money invested in me, and they don't want nothing happening to me." And that's one of the things that, he said it more as a joke, than anything to kind of throw me off. But when you look at sponsorship and how drivers and sponsors work together, they develop a bond after a while. A good team will. And when you've got, because really and truly, that company that sponsored him that fire suit, Close Racing Supply, they're protecting their investment. They've got money invested in Booger and his program, and so they're going to protect it. And so what? They can get their name out in front of a few extra people by doing that. That's the name of the game, is everybody benefiting from an agreement.
Right. Mitch, as long as we're on the fire suit thing, I got to tell you, I didn't get a win, but one of my old fire suits got a win about a month and a half ago. A young kid, a third generation guy, and I've known the family my entire life. Young Blake Thornell went down to Verona in San Diego with his IMCA modified, and he put a whooping on him. Well, Randy Thornell, his dad, and we talk. We share a lot of info, and he does all my racing engines. Well, I noticed Blake's uniforms that he was wearing. Now, Blake, mind you, would go to school. As soon as he was done with school, he'd do his homework before Randy got home, and straight to the garage every single day with Randy. not going out with his buddies, not doing any of that, out to the garage, whether it would be to do extra projects for extra racing money, to get to the racetracks, or working on their cars, and they have 2 IMCA modifieds, or whatever they had to do to make their program work, he's out there doing. Well, I noticed his uniform, and I had a couple old ones that I had grown out of, because as we get older, we know we get larger and things like that.
Some of us do. Some of us keep our slim figure.
Yeah, well, I'm not one of those. But
Me either.
So I said, look, I've got a couple uniforms. Here's one. Well, he got his first win. Even funnier than that is, when you get that first win, how then you're all of a sudden King Kong.
Yeah.
Well, Randy and I actually talked about it before they took both cars the following week to Bakersfield. Now, on the West Coast, as far as the IMCA modified, you can race anywhere else, but if you really want to get serious about it, Bakersfield is the place, because that place will humble you very fast.
Well,
he proceeded to tell Randy what he was going to do to his car, and Randy said, look, okay, you want to work on your program tonight? You fine. I'll work on mine. And he went out, and he made it a half a lap in practice before he spun it out and backed it into the fence. So he come back in, and he kind of hammered it around a little bit, and they dropped the green flag for the heat race, and Cody Laney, who's been running a lot and is really fast, passed him on in turn 1 and 2, and they went down the back straightaway, and he made up about 5 cars going into turn 3 on the first lap, and proceeded to back it into the fence again. And when he came back in, Randy said, "Okay, now would you like to listen to me, or do you still know it all?" So he got his win, and then he got his humbling experience the very following week, which happens to mostly all of us at some point.
Oh yeah, get the win and then get the crow pie to follow it.
Right. I thought that was pretty funny.
I think that I have watched, from when I switched sides of the fence and I came to the track side working for the racetrack, I got to see a lot of things that really opened my eyes that I normally wouldn't have ever seen. Because number one, I was either too busy under a car, working on a car, looking at the car on the track to see what I needed to do when it came back in, debriefing driver, whatever. But I got to start seeing things. And I walked through the grandstands, and, I have nothing to do until the race starts except entertain the fans. And I walked through the stands talking to them and listening to them and hearing what they have to say. And one of the things that really stood out to me was when you have a company that comes on board as a sponsor and you work together with that sponsor, you get that sponsor's employees coming to the races. And there was an instance happened last year. One of the drivers landed a new sponsor, and some of their employees came out to the races, had never been to the races before, and they were just sitting there watching them pack the track. And they're like, this don't look very interesting. So I went over and sat with them for a little while, and I said, okay, look, here's the deal. Here's what's happening now. I said, until you hear me start screaming for driver's meeting, I said, ain't nothing fun going to happen. I said, after we have the driver's meeting, that's when the fun starts. And they're like, oh, okay. I said, you just listen to me all night long, and I'll tell you what's coming. So that night, I made a special effort to go out of my way to explain a little bit over the microphone what was happening, what was going on. And when I got done, I have that bad habit of smoking. So as soon as I don't smoke in the booth, so as soon as the races are over, I'm on like a dead run downstairs to get outside so I can light a cigarette. Well, I get down there, and just about the time I go to light it, I see this crowd of like 8 people coming at me. So I kind of hold off on lighting my cigarette, and I'm standing there. This woman walks up. She was acting like kind of the spokesman, I guess, of the group. She said, I just want you to know how much we appreciate you telling us what was going on tonight. She says, we didn't have a clue in the world what we were coming to see. She said, but our boss is sponsoring so-and-so's car, and he said that we should come out and support him. So we did. She said, and I want you to know, now that we know what's going on, we'll be back next week too. She said, we had an absolute ball. And so they went to kind of walk off, and they all shook my hand. And this one elderly woman she was real quiet. She didn't say a word the whole time that I was sitting down there with them before the races. She didn't say a word when they came up there. She walked over, and she had a coat on. And it was kind of warm outside, but she had this coat on. And she walked over there, and she looked at me, and she said, "You make racing funny." I said, "I do." She said, "You're a funny man." I said, "Well, thank you." She said, "I like you." I thought, well, okay. She said, "Are you single?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I'm married." She said, "Well, I'm 82. I'm probably too old for you anyway." And she just laughed, patted me on the back, and walked off. And I thought, that right there was fun, she finally felt relaxed enough around me to tease me a little bit and give me a hard time, because I thrive on that at the racetrack. And that's what makes it fun. That's what I have found through my 8 years of announcing, that, the fans want to have a good time. They want to be part of it. They just don't want to sit and listen. They want to be part of it. And the best way to get them to be a part of it is to tease and joke and cut up with them. And, I left North Georgia last year, and I'm focusing only on Boyd's this year. But when I went back to North Georgia this Saturday night to take pictures, I'll bet you I had 30 people, 40 people walk up to me and say, "Hey, are you announcing tonight?" "Nope, I'm taking pictures." "Oh, we was hoping you was going to be announcing. You're funny." And, I never really thought about it, but I guess it's a good thing, that people acknowledge me that way. And I know I'm humbled by it, and I'm tickled to death that people like it, because I don't know how to do anything else.
Right. There's a time, there's times to be funny, and there's times to actually let them know what's going on, and sometimes you can combine the two. And there's very few that do it well.
Well, I know, what was I'm having a brain fart right now. What was the announcer at Ascot's name? Otto?
Yeah. Gosh.
Jim Otto? Tim Otto?
Yes.
Yeah.
Him and Bruce Flanders was very good.
Growing up, out there, watching sprint cars and what have you, and being a part of that, I always admired listening to him, because he always had a little quip to throw in there and kept it entertaining. And then I come back here and I get to watch the legendary announcer, Jimmy Mostedler, who started the Have a Tampa series. I get to listen to him, and he became one of my heroes. And then when I became involved with the board of directors for the Georgia Auto Racing Hall of Fame, a lot of the people that are on the board were personal friends of Jimmy's. And it's like I sit there and they telling stories about my hero, and I'm thinking, man, that's cool to know that, They just keep going and keep going, and I'm like, man, I am too blessed to be stressed. And to be where I'm at today, it's a lot of fun. But it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot of effort, and many, many nights of sitting listening to tapes and videos and going through everything I do to try to keep it entertaining. And it's announcing is a hard job. People don't realize it, but there's been a few people who have tried it and walked up and handed me the microphone back and go, "Nope, here, you can have this. I'll go back to racing." But, it's as hard as racing is, just on a different level. Where racing is kind of more... It might be harder. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it might be harder. I don't know that I could do it.
I mean, the thing is racing is more physical, and announcing is more mental. And that's where I had to shift gears. because I got to where my physical part wasn't cooperating as well as my mental part was. And, rheumatoid arthritis really sucks. And I wish rheumatoid arthritis would get a black flag. But when it slowed me down, I had to find another way to stay involved. And so I went to taking pictures. And then it started slowing me down for that. So they walked up one night, Keith Ellis did, and handed me a microphone and said, "Hey, the announcer's brother's house burnt down. You're our announcer tonight." And I'm like, "Really? Have you ever listened to me talk? You do not want me to announce." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're our announcer tonight." And it was the start of a slow thing. I sat with a microphone for 2 hours, scared to turn it on. And when I finally did, somebody heckled me back from the audience, and it was like, "Oh, really? You want to do that now, do you? Okay, it's on now." And I have been having fun ever since, and I haven't shut up since.
Well, so rheumatoid, yeah, with that word you said, arthritis.
Yeah.
Well, don't they have drugs for that? Because apparently they have drugs that can make drivers.
That's our next segment, which is coming up. We're right up against the break, so let me wrap that one for you. Yes, they do have drugs that help with rheumatoid arthritis, but it's kind of like racing secrets. They work really good for a while, and then everybody finds out about them, and they don't work so well no more. Well, that's kind of the thing you go through with rheumatoid arthritis. But coming up, because we are on a break right now, coming up next, we're going to discuss drugs and injuries and race car drivers. So don't go nowhere. It's the Mitch Walker Show with me, your host, Mitch Walker, and my special guest, Mr. Chuck Becker. And the only place you'll find us right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Automotive technicians and auto service trainees, how would you like to work at the beach and perform for one of the best car care centers in the nation? Louis Meineke is now looking for skilled automotive technicians to join their award-winning team. If you're a gearhead that knows his or her stuff, or a young up-and-comer that has the motivation and drive to succeed, then you need to make this call today. 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center, located in beautiful Lewis, Delaware, offers a highly competitive compensation plan, great benefits, a flexible schedule, and did we mention that you're going to be working at the beach? Plus, there's a signing bonus for the right candidates. Technicians must be ASE certified and have a minimum of 6 years experience. Beginners advance at your own pace in one of several entry-level positions. But whatever you do, don't wait. These jobs will go fast. Call Tim at 302-827-2054. That's 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center. Rev up your career.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette, it's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes, on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
How to deal with someone who says that's so gay. Outsmart them.
This party is like so gay.
Totally.
Excuse me, but did you ladies know the word gay used to mean happy or excited? Then it became a word used to describe gay people. Then somehow it came to mean dumb or stupid, which is how you just used it, which is not very nice.
Ew, that guy is on the football team and super smart, and he totally hates us now.
Totally. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off. Learn more at thinkbeforeyouspeak.com.
Racing is all about winning. But hey, the second place guy has family too. Now back to the Mitch Walker Show with the doctor.
All right, welcome back. And before we jump on our next topic, everyone that knows me and knows who I am knows that Craig Reese was one of my best friends. Craig Reese and I raced together, and through my teaming up with Craig Reese, I got to be friends with Cody McCarver. Cody McCarver, formerly of Confederate Railroad. He also sang the song Let's Get Dirty. Redneck friends of mine. Cody has become a very dear friend of mine, and Cody does a lot of gospel work. And one of the things that he has started doing is helping out his own hometown of Dunlap, Tennessee, and which is just north of Chattanooga, about 40 or 50 miles. Well, 4 years ago, they started out this 4th of July free music festival. And Cody has worked really hard putting all this together, and they just released the lineup. He just now sent it to me. I want to share this with everybody so you can make plans now. The fourth annual City of Dunlap presents the 4th of July free music festival. They're going to be featuring Carolina Calling, Sean Cooley and Time Truck, Stallion Band, Zachary Paul Band, and Cody McCarver. And also, their featured guests will be Bo, John Schneider. He's going to have the General Lee there with him. This will be starts at 10:30 a.m. and goes until 9:15 when the fireworks show starts, and it is free. Free music festival, Dunlap, Tennessee. Go up there and check out my buddy Cody McCarver and tell him that you're just one of his redneck friends. He'll treat you right. All right, now, what we were talking about before the break. We talked about this a little bit last week. I touched on it, and there's been some new developments. We talked about this right after the dream. Scott Bloomquist misses the drug test, slips and falls, hurts his shoulder. His sponsor says that it's a torn rotator cuff. He goes to the hospital. Hospital says he's okay to race. They let him race. And he comes from the back and wins. Gets out of the car, waving both arms up over his head, hugs his wife, holds the trophy up, the whole 9 yards. Trust me, I've talked to 35 or 40 people who have had rotator cuff surgery. I have talked to 2 doctors. Every one of them says he does not have an injured rotator cuff if he's raising his arms up over his head like that. Now, I am not a real medical doctor. I'm just the doctor. But like another real good friend of mine who will be talking here in just a minute, I'm going to call BS on that. Because now he comes to Lernerville for the fireworks 100, goes out, sucks, finishes dead last in his heat, comes in and says, oh, my shoulder hurts too bad. I'm going to go have surgery. Missed another drug test. Now that's 2 drug tests he's missed. And this is coming from a man who has 2 drug convictions on his record. And now he's missed another drug test, but suddenly his arm is too bad. Now he's going to have to go have surgery. Well, my thing is, if his arm is so bad now, his shoulder is so bad now, why was he doing what he was doing in Victory Lane? How in the holy hell do you wave your arms up above your head with a torn rotator cuff and smile while you're doing it? I don't care if you're Superman. Nobody is that tough. Chuck, what do you think?
You know, Mitch, okay, Scott Bloomquist started at 3 racetracks that are closed. He started right out here on the West Coast, and he was terrible. He started at Corona Raceway, Speedway 117, which is in Chula Vista, and Ascot Park. But he told us then, when he was a kid, because we started, at the same time as he did, and my uncle and my dad were actually pretty good in those days. And
And he already knew he was mapped out to do what he was going to do. And God bless him for the success he's had. He's done far and above what just about anybody can do. Let me fast forward a little bit. 3 weeks ago, we had a race at Paris. Okay, I like my steering wheel a little bit further away. Well, I got hung up on a restart, and I don't know because I haven't been to a doctor, but I'm here to tell you, I got hung up in a bad situation that has never happened to me in close to 40 years of racing, and my arm was extended when I got hit from behind and when I hit the car in front of me on a restart because the leader got to playing games. I could not lift my arm. It jammed my arm straight back into my shoulder. Personally, I think it's a rotator cuff injury because still to this day, 3 weeks later, I can lift my arm above my head, but it is very gingerly, very slowly. It's not something that I can do with any kind of, frequency or anything like that. I do light exercises every day trying to help it. But there is no way you can tell me that man didn't have some kind of drug in his system, whether it be muscle, pain, whether we'll just call it Vicodin or OxyContin or something to suppress that pain, and do what he did. First and foremost, drive from the back to the front against the best in the country, and then to come out of his car with his hands up in the air like he did. And then all of a sudden, the following week, Scott Bloomquist doesn't spin out on his own, and he did in a heat race. No, come on now. That dude can drive a race car. Whether you like him or don't like him, he can drive. But that stuff doesn't happen. I'm calling bullshit.
Well, my thing about it is this. Me personally, I've never cared for him. But that stems from a run-in between him and our team back in '96 at North Georgia Speedway during a Have a Tampa race. I don't deny the man can wheel a race car. And I have seen some of his work as far as some of the earlier chassis that he's built. I've seen some of the Warriors that he has taken apart and put back together. I've seen some of the thought that has went into some of these cars. And I'm not saying that the man is not a genius when it comes to racing. He is a wheel man there's not many better. But the dark cloud that follows him around seems to always be centered around drugs.
Right.
Last year it was doping tires. This year it's doping the driver. Last year Sweet got in trouble up in Knoxville, I believe it was. He got busted for some drugs. And this year, this all happens, and it's just one of the things that amazes me is you have two kinds of people. You have people that love Bloomquist and people that don't like Bloomquist. There is no in between. And the people that don't like him are ranting and raving and going absolutely livid, wanting them to drug test him again, wanting to know why this is happening. Why is he doing it this way? Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he get suspended for that? And then you got his fans who are just totally oblivious to all the facts, and they're out there defending him. And I'm okay with defending your driver and standing up for your driver, but you've got to be able to look at things realistically too. I was around a few years ago when racetracks were moving schedules up so that super late models could run early in the evening so that Bloomquist would have enough time to jump on a helicopter and fly home because he was on house arrest and he had to be home by midnight. And that went on for a whole year. And they made all kinds of special concessions for him during that. And it's like you're rewarding a man who got busted for cocaine. And now, I can't say that I know for sure he was on drugs. That's why he didn't take the 2 drug tests. But it just so happens that the first drug test that he missed at the Dream, he had to go to the hospital. And so he wasn't able to be back in time to go pee in the cup. He went the first time and said he didn't have to go. So they told him to go, well, go drink lots of fluids. Well, every time I've ever had to take a drug test, and there's been a lot of them, I didn't get to go drink some water. They stood there with me and handed me water.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't like, oh, well, just come back later. It'll be okay. And the thing about it is, he got special treatment. Okay. That's my point. He got treated special.
The thing about Scott is, I'm actually the one person you might know that's kind of in the middle. I think the guy has done phenomenal. I do. I don't care whether he wins, loses, or draws. I think he's done great. But I'm not a huge fan. I don't follow what he does all the time. But I don't dislike him either. I just it is what it is. He's done great for himself. But there's 3 undefeateds in life: Mother Nature, Father Time, and sex. Okay, Father Time is starting to catch Scott Bloomquist. Scott Bloomquist is quickly approaching 60 years old. The things that didn't hurt him as a 30, 35, 40-year-old, and in a race car, those injuries, they start to mount. And whether people believe that race car drivers are athletes or non-athletes, that's their choice. But I can tell you, race car drivers are athletes. These things will beat you to death. They will abuse you. They hurt. There isn't a whole lot that a race car can't do to you physically in a negative fashion. I feel it every time I get in one anymore. It just starts to hurt now. Stuff that it didn't used to faze me. And now we're only talking about 25, 30 lap races most of the time. And it's like, man, this thing just beats the crap out of me. So I think that those injuries, whether they were true injuries or just aches and pains, I think they're starting to amount to something with him. And I don't know that he's ready to accept that. That's where his ego comes into play. And I think that it might be getting the best of him.
And then you look at the decision that he's got to make. He said he wants to run the car and he's going to put somebody else in it. Now, does he go for a helmet that's got some serious experience, like, say, a Billy Moyer Sr.? Or does he go for a young gun, an up-and-coming star? Now, if he goes, whichever way he goes, he's going to have to deal with his ego one way or the other. If he puts a young gun in there, somebody who hasn't made their mark quite yet, and they get out there and they do good, he can always stand back and say, see, that's what a Bloomquist car will do for you. And then everybody in the world is going to have a Bloomquist car.
Right.
Now, if he puts a seasoned veteran in there and they do good, he can say, see, even a veteran can drive a Bloomquist car. It's not hard. But it's like, how is his ego going to direct how he goes with this? That's the big thing. And
I cast my vote for say like Ricky Thornton Jr. or possibly one of these go even younger with like a West Coast guy, Cody Laney. That kid can wheel a race car.
I know Ricky Weiss's name has been mentioned, the Canadian, and then also big sexy Brandon Overton has his name has been mentioned too. So, I guess we'll wait and see, but
even maybe
I wish him the
Hunter
best
Marriott.
of luck. Yeah, exactly. I would love to see him take a driver that is racing today, that is racing in a family operation, that's low on money but is a good wheelman. And see,
Cody Laney's his guy.
Give somebody that needs a break, or a Booger Brooks,
Right.
Somebody like that, or a Johnny Kluwer, somebody like that's racing on a local level that would benefit from getting some seat time in a Bloomquist car. That's what I'd really like to see that happen. But we'll have to wait and see how that ball shakes out, because dealing with Bloomquist, you never know what's going to happen. I know
right.
in 96, he showed up at North Georgia Speedway with the loudest pair of Bermuda shorts on you've ever seen in your life, a button-up dark blue shirt buttoned all the way to the neck, and carrying a grocery bag that the top of it was all rolled up and folded up, and had on one of them little British like golfing hats like Jackie Stewart wears. Had one of them on. He come walking in the track. Somebody asked him, said, "Hey, Bloomer, what's in the bag?" "Jesus," and kept walking. Now, that was straight up a mind game. He was messing with people. And I love that. I love the messing with people part. But,
right.
Sometimes it's just, the man is really out there. I mean, he flipped one night at East Bay and then had a conniption fit because they wouldn't bring a tarp out there and cover the underside of his car until they got it flipped back over. He didn't want nobody taking pictures of it. But we're up against another break. We're going to step out, take a quick commercial. When we come back, who knows what we'll get into, but I promise you it will be entertaining. It's the Mitch Walker Show with your host, me, Mitch Walker. They call me the doctor, and my special guest host tonight, Mr. Chuck Becker from out there on the left coast. You'll find us exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the Track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the Track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend.
My brother.
My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
The Performance Motorsports Network is a compilation of shows about motorsports. From technical to controversial to just fun, everything you like about racing and gearhead stuff is right here on one internet channel. The Performance Motorsports Network. Tell your friends about it.
Hi, I'm Reed Sorensen. Racing has been a part of me and my family for as long as I can remember. I had to make tough choices early on to get to the top. It took hard work and dedication. But it's those tough choices that help me prepare for challenges I would face as a cup driver. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
You're listening to The Mitch Walker Show. You want half-naked girls, singing and sound effects? Go watch American Idol. Now, here's the doctor.
All right, welcome back. Now, sitting in with me tonight, my buddy Chuck Becker is sitting out there in lovely Southern California. Now, Chuck, I know, we have talked on this show many, many times about just about every issue that you could imagine. one thing that has always, I guess, has always kind of come up in one way or another is money and the cost of racing and that and safety. And money still gets involved in safety. But, when you look at the amount of money that is spent in racing on a weekly basis across the country, it is probably one of the biggest private expenditures that people make, second only to houses and cars. Because the money that they spend, not just on the race car itself, but on getting to the racetrack every week. I mean, you can't do it without some help. I mean, you just about got to have help to go racing at just about any level, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Just to load the car up, tow the car there, be sure that the car has enough fuel to race that night, and get in the pits and whatever the entry happens to be. And I only live 30 minutes from what I call my home track of Paris, is about about $300 before anything else gets started, without any new tires, without anything else. $300, and that's lowballing it, I would say, because then once you get that, then you're looking at you always got to have tear offs. You got to have new Heim joints here or there if you get one bent. Whatever the nuts and bolts are, upkeep on the car. Changing oil. You still got to buy a filter. I'm lucky that I have Lucas Oil as a sponsor, but I still have to buy filters. So and you can't really cut corners on that stuff or half-ass it, I guess, because if you do, then it steamrolls on you, because as soon as you start breaking parts, then it costs even more. So it is very expensive, and I've actually been weighing some of my options on that lately, because it's how much fun am I having anymore versus what the reward is, and how much time am I putting into it, and at my age, how long do I want to do this, or do I want to, like we just were talking about, help some of the younger guys, or help somebody that might be younger that I know can drive a car, put them in my car, or something of that sort. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's tough. It is a very, very tough. I've walked away from it a couple times for several years, and it's just hard.
Saturday night, we were talking, me and Chris Zimmerman, and we had a stellar year in 1996, and it's a lot of people still talk about it to this day, and we couldn't have done it without the sponsors. And racing is inherently expensive, and we were talking about it Saturday night after the race, and I looked at Chris and I said, "You want one of these, don't you?" And he kind of laughed. He says, "Oh yeah." He said, "I'd love to have one." He said, "I'd love to be able to afford one." And we were talking again today, just right before the show went on, and he was talking about the guy's car he drove Saturday night. This guy just started first of the year, and he's really, really green, and he's slowly learning. And I told Chris, I said, you ought to take that guy under your wing. I said, that would kind of give you a in back into racing. That would get you back around it a little bit, and you could set the pace at how much you wanted to be involved. I said, and it would help him out by having an experienced veteran guiding him, tutoring him, telling him what he's doing wrong, helping him here, helping him there. I said, and it would benefit both of you. And he said, I like that idea. And I said, you don't have to get in a race car to enjoy it. And I learned that the hard way. Chris's car was what taught me that. Because I come back here, and when I came back in 93, I didn't want nothing to do with racing. I wouldn't pick up a magazine. I wouldn't look at anything on the news that was racing related. I didn't watch NASCAR. I didn't watch nothing. And then I got back in with Chris, and one thing led to another, and I've been in it ever since. But racing is something that if you let it, it will consume you. And it will consume you quick. But if you temper yourself and you watch what you're doing, it is also something that can give you great satisfaction. And it can bring you new friends like you've never met before. And racers become family. And it's all because of a common bond of they all love racing. And, you know, there was an example of that bond here a while back. Jeff O'Neill, who lives down in Texas, I've had him on my show a couple of times. Jeff races in Texas. He's raced up at Nashville, raced in the truck series. Great guy. He kind of stepped away from racing, getting a little older and watching his kids go through school. Well, Jeff's daughter broke down in Nashville. And he called me. And he said, man, I'm in a spot. He said, I'm 1,000 miles away from my daughter and she's broke down. What, do you know anybody in Nashville? And I said, well, hang on just a minute. I'm sitting at my computer. And I typed in, do I have any road service people in Nashville? Within 3 minutes, I got 4 private messages. Every one of them included a phone number. So I called a buddy of mine. He was one of the ones that sent me a number. I said, how well do you know this guy? He said, he's like a brother to me. And I said, okay, I've got a racer in Texas whose daughter is broke down in Nashville. He said, where's she at and what's her phone number? I'll get it took care of. An hour later, this young lady was on her way back to Texas. And it didn't cost her a dime.
Right.
Because racers look out for racers.
Even when you don't see eye to eye at the racetrack or get along at all
Kimball,
at the
Tennessee
racetrack.
one day. And there's 2 guys out there pulling a motor out of the back of a pickup truck, stuffing it into a race car hauler. And I went over, I said, y'all need some help? They said, yeah, sure, we can use it. I said, what are we doing here? He said, I blew my motor racing down in Florida, and I'm on my way to Missouri, and my brother brought me my spare motor from the shop in Virginia. And this just happens to be where we met up. And I said, well, hey, here, let me help. And we got it loaded and got him all took care of. But it's that kind of camaraderie that you find. And we talked about this last week with Shelley when she was on. And the camaraderie is what makes racing fun. I think that is one of the things that keeps drivers racing in dirt and the local grassroots level longer than they do at any other level. Not because they've lost their touch when they get older. It's not because they've run out of money, but it's because it's fun. And you're going to keep doing things that's fun. And when you've got this much fun happening at the racetrack, you're going to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
So,
some of the stories that Shelley was telling, some of them they're really funny to me because my dad once upon a time raced for her dad, and then I know she told you a story about Ivan Baldwin. Well,
oh yeah,
my dad
and
Ivan Baldwin. Yes, my dad and Ivan Baldwin at the racetrack. Everybody thought they absolutely despised each other. I have pictures here of my dad driving Ivan's cars and Ivan driving my dad's cars, because at the racetrack they hated to lose to each other and they were bitter rivals. But what the people didn't see was the other 5 out of 5 or 6 days a week, whatever it took, they were at each other's shops or doing whatever it took to get the other person's car ready. Well, true story. I'm not sure what the year was. I believe it was like 1969 or 70. Richard Petty won the Winston Cup. at that, I think it was called the Winston Cup at that time, or whatever it was, in 1970. Yeah. Well, the banquet used to be at Ontario Motor Speedway, and Richard Petty's his Winston Cup trophy was there. Well, my dad happened to have won the West Coast Championship that year. Well, him and Ivan, in their infinite wisdom, drinking, decided that was his trophy. So not only did they break in to where the trophy was, they took that trophy, and by the time that everybody realized who had it, that trophy was in about 15 pieces, so they had to try to super glue it all back together and take it back. So
I sit and listen to I don't have his permission to tell this story, so I'm just going to say I listened to a former guest on my show who competed at the NASCAR level talk about back in the early years of racing. There was everybody always, just got to the racetrack however they could, and there was a group that come along, and J.D. Stacy come into racing and made a big impact, spent a lot of money, and when he flew his drivers to Daytona, and when they got there, they had rental cars waiting on all of them, and all the drivers showed up at the airport at the same time, and when you have 5 drivers who are all trying to establish dominance, you put them all in 5 rental cars. They all say, hey, I wonder who can get back to the hotel first.
Right.
And the race began. Well, to make a long story short, 2 of those cars wound up on the track at Daytona. 1 of them wound up in Lake Lloyd, and 1 of them wound up in the swimming pool at the hotel.
Days of Thunder.
Well, they say that this story is what led to part of Days of Thunder, but it's when you go back and you listen to these guys talk about that, you can see the sparkle in their eye, and you know that this really did happen, and it's not just something from a movie, but these guys really done what they said they done back in the day. And then you go back even further to like Rex White. Rex White is probably one of the most humble men I know. Well, him and Waddell Wilson are a close tie for that. But Rex White told me, he said, I had to race. He said, I had to support my habit. And I'm thinking, Rex White had a habit? What kind of habit, Rex? He said, eating. He said, I like to eat. He said, and if I wanted to eat every day, I had to make some money. He said, so I went racing. And he said, when you're driven by the desire to eat, he said, it changes the way you look at a race car. And, you look at what they went through back then, I mean, he said that he made $11,000 was what his check was for winning the 1960 NASCAR championship.
Wow.
And you look at these guys today, they make that for a lap.
Right.
The
sad part is racing could still be fun, and racing could still be a lot of ingenuity to where you could go to a wrecking yard and you could manufacture your own parts, or you could build stuff and make these race cars what they once were, with the exception of they let it. Well, first, you can't find wrecking yards anymore other than maybe like a pick-apart out here. I don't know about back there, but out here, because of all the, they don't want oil in the ground, and they don't want this, and they don't want that, and then they tax this, and then they do that. And the cars anymore, the cars that are being raced anymore are not stock cars. They're just not. They're not. There's nothing stock about them. They're all hand fabricated. They're completely ridiculous on the amounts of money that is spent on any given higher up race car. And I'm almost to the point where I'd like to go get just a couple, compact cars or something, put a roll cage in them, and put radios in them to where we can talk to each other and race, and just go run into each other and have a blast. That to me is almost more fun now than what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. Well, I said back a couple of months ago we needed to create a class. It has to be steel body. All steel on the body, had to be on a street car at some time or another. Fenders don't have to match. The roof don't have to match. But it has to be a full-bodied car. You can power it with anything you want to. Has to have all the safety features, but have a $3,500 claimer rule.
Right.
And then if that's what you want to do, whatever you can build and keep it under $3,500, go racing. And, maybe the $3,500 would be flexible. I mean, that may wind up being closer to $5,000, but something that is budget friendly. And guys could go out, race, and have a good time, but not have a whole stinking rule book you've got to follow. And I think that would bring back some enjoyment and some competition. But tell you what, Chuck, we're up against our last commercial break, so sit tight. We're going to step out, take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some upcoming events, both out there and back here, and who knows what else. It's the Mitch Walker Show with my special guest, Mr. Chuck Becker, and you'll find this exclusively right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ball in street? Girl in street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Here's an important message from RAD and this station.
Hi, this is Bob Sheehan from Blues Traveler for RAD, recording artists against drunk driving. I like to party just as much as the next guy, maybe even more, but the one thing I won't do after I've had a few is get in the car and drive. Don't blow it. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives and so should you.
Automotive technicians and auto service trainees, how would you like to work at the beach and perform for one of the best car care centers in the nation? Lewis Meineke is now looking for skilled automotive technicians to join their award-winning team. If you're a gearhead that knows his or her stuff, or a young up-and-comer that has the motivation and drive to succeed, then you need to make this call today. 302-827-2054. Lewis Meineke Car Care Center, located in beautiful Lewis, Delaware, offers a highly competitive compensation plan, great benefits, a flexible schedule, and did we mention that you're going to be working at the beach? Plus, there's a signing bonus for the right candidates. Technicians must be ASE certified and have a minimum of 6 years experience. Beginners advance at your own pace in one of several entry-level positions. But whatever you do, don't wait. These jobs will go fast. Call Tim at 302-827-2054. That's 302-827-2054. Lewis Meineke Car Care Center. Rev up your career.
Covering the entire field from the back markers to the race winner every weekend. It's the Mitch Walker Show. And now, back to the doctor.
All right, welcome back. Now, before the break, we were talking about the cost of racing and creating a super class. I just had one of our listeners who, everyone knows that I keep my Facebook page open during the show. So if you ever want to shoot me a message or you got a comment or something, always feel free to do so. If I can, I'll respond to it during breaks. And if not, I'll use it on the air if I can. But there was a post made earlier talking about bitching about social media and how bitching affects racetracks. There was a post made earlier by Blue Ridge Motorsports Park, where I was at last weekend. Great group of guys over there, Kaylor Card and Donnie and all of them. But they rained out last week. Rain absolutely flooded the racetrack. And they came on, they made a statement on Facebook, on their Facebook page, about they were sorry that they had to do that, but because it was an Ultimate Super late model race, the Ultimate Series coordinator is the one that pulled the plug on it. They said, look, we don't want our drivers coming from 7 different states and have to pull all the way down there and then get rained out. Said the chances of rain are just too great. We're not going to race. So we're going to postpone this date. So they called it. Well, 99% of the people understood. One guy gets on there and says, you know, I understand that it was a good call to not have the race. I understand that. I understand that, you know, these drivers travel from a great distance. He said, but for me, I'm not coming back because of one thing. Your scoreboard don't work. I'm not coming back until you fix your scoreboard. And I read that and I'm like, really? Sure, there's a joke coming. There's got to be a joke connected to this. So I waited and I waited and I waited. 15 minutes I waited, no more comments. So finally I had to wade in there and make a comment. It's like, really? A scoreboard? Are you serious? You're not coming back because of a scoreboard. And I got to thinking, of 12 racetracks in this area that I know of, 2 of them have working scoreboards. And this guy says he's not coming back to a dirt track because the scoreboard don't work. And people wonder why racing suffers. A scoreboard.
Right. Mitch, I got to change the subject real quick, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
You know, we just talked about the racing community being very close and stuff, and
yeah,
the racing community really gets serious about driver injuries, or, you know, and like this past week we lost a driver.
Yeah.
It's hard. You think about it. Strides are made all the time to try to make the cars safer. Sometimes it just doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how safe the cars are. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong anyway. So, you know, I know people have talked about the sprint cars and things like that, but especially the wing cars, when they flip, the wings generally slow them cars down. Unfortunately, this week it didn't. It went through the billboards and we lost him.
Yeah.
So, you know, that stuff, you know, I take serious. I really don't have words for it. I just kind of, you know, well, you know me, when I get in the car, I strap in, I pray, and off I go.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, Chuck,
make mention of that.
Wayne Davis made a comment about it's a time for us to do something. We're losing too many sprint car drivers. And, you know, you look back at it and you think, well, everybody knows that a race car is inherently dangerous. You know that when you pull your helmet on. You know, every time I pulled one on, I knew that may be the last thing I ever do. That may be the last time I ever pull out of a pit area onto a racetrack. I knew that going in, and I still done it because that's what I wanted to do. That was my love. That was my passion. And I understand and I completely agree with what you're saying. There's some things that need to be changed. But we don't need to have a knee-jerk reaction every time something happens. We have to make a change. You know,
Right.
Dale Earnhardt died because he didn't listen to Bill Simpson. You know, I mean, if he had had his seatbelts mounted right, it might have been a different story. But it did bring about a lot of changes. And Brian Clausen, we lost him. That brought about a few changes. But I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I don't think we need to make all these drastic changes just as the result of one freak accident. And from anyone who has seen the video of the Raging Cajun, that was a freak accident. That wasn't something that you see happen all the time. With Clausen, that was a different story, but I think that there are some things that can be done, but it's all a bunch of little things. It's not, major issues that needs to be addressed right now. It's not something that I think the world is going to accept. I mean, you look back in the day when they put roll cages on sprint cars. I mean, you've had drivers going on strike.
Yeah,
they didn't want to drive.
did.
They didn't want to drive no stinking race car with a bunch of pipe over the top of it. And there was a lot of drivers got killed during that time. And the roll cage saved some of them. Did it save them all? No. But over the years, a lot of your different companies, Shrike I know has done a lot. Maxim has done a lot. They've actually started crash testing sprint cars. And what I thought was interesting, and this happened way before Clausen, they turned a sprint car on its side and crash it halo first into a concrete barrier to test it, to see if there's any way they can improve and protect the driver. And big gains have been made in that. You look at an old Stanton Sprinter from back in the 80s versus some of the new Maxims that are out there today. There's no comparison.
Right.
I mean, the cars that they're making today are way safer than the old Stantons were. And it's a tough pill to swallow, to lose a driver like Jason Johnson that we lost the Raging Cajun this week. But I think the world of racing would be better served by admitting that, they're dangerous. That's why we race them. Don't take all the danger out of it.
Right.
Make things safer.
You can't.
Yeah. Make things a little bit safer if you can. A containment seat, head and neck device. I know it took you a long time to get into a head and neck restraint, but you got into one. And, everybody wants to sit back and play armchair quarterback or armchair promoter. And I think that's kind of the wrong tack to take. I think we need to just keep in mind that racing is dangerous. We know it. We still love it. We're still going to do it. So let's take baby steps and try to improve the safety that we have without reinventing the wheel.
Right. Well,
Now,
I will be thinking about Jason this weekend. I will strap in at Paris Auto Speedway, and we'll see what we can do. I'm not sure a championship's in the works. I'm second in points right now, and Corey Sample
is kicking my butt. Just plain and simple. He's kicked my butt all year, and we had a bad race last race, but I'll keep digging and see what happens.
Well, the thing about it is, though, things happen. Ronnie Johnson, Saturday night. Ronnie Johnson jumped in that Capital race car, went out there, and was just putting a blistering on them. A 30-lap feature. On lap 24, I think it was, he went in between two lap cars. One of the lap cars hiccuped and got down into Johnson's left rear, chewed the left rear up. He rolls in the pits, changes the tire, straightens the sheet metal, goes back out dead last in a 17-car field, and drives all the way back up to third in, I think, 9 laps. And hands the win to David Payne. But, things happen. So, never count your ducks before the chickens hatch.
Oh, no, I haven't given up. I'm going to keep digging, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I tell you what, when we wrap the show up, you stay on, don't hang up, because I've got a speed secret for you that I'm going to share with you. So don't hang up after the show's over. But, there really and truly, there is a lot of prayers that need to go out this week to Jason Johnson's family. There was another young man, Trevor Trimble, in Mississippi, I believe it was. He is still in the hospital, expected to make a full recovery, but he took a pretty wild ride. There was another driver in a modified. I don't have his name in front of me, but prayers for them as well. Race car drivers know what we're getting into when they get in. And when you strap on and hit that switch, fire that monster off, and you roll out onto the racetrack, everybody's 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And everybody's going racing. We're going to put on a show for the fans, and that's all that matters. We're going to go have fun, and we're going to do it the best way we can. And if one of us gets hurt, well, pray for us and take care of my family when I'm gone. That's, and
Amen.
Racers will do that, I just want to remind everyone real quick. Let me pop this up here. It vanished on me. This Saturday night, Neesmith, the super late models let me rephrase that. I believe it's the Crate Series, comes rolling into town at Boyd Speedway. We have got lots of things going on. We're going to have a big time over at Boyd's. I know there is racing at I-75. There's racing down at Dixie. There's racing at Blue Ridge. We've got racing all over the place. Get out and support your local racers, because without your local racers, we don't have much racing to do. Here it is. I'm sorry. Saturday night, Denise Smith, Durant's Lane Racing Late Models roll into town to kick off a 3-day tour. This will be a special crate show. Also have hobby, sportsman, street stock, and hot shots. $2,500 to win at Boyd's. Then they roll down to Cochran Motor Speedway, where we hot lap the tour bus for $2,500 down there. Back over to Talladega Short Track for $2,500 there. The salute to the American Nationals, presented by Durant's Lane Chevrolet. All right. Now, we're up against the break. Chuck, real quick, we ain't got just about 30 seconds. I want to thank you for coming on. Best of luck to you chasing that championship this year. Ladies and gentlemen, remember two things, please. This weekend, take somebody racing with you wherever you go, whether you're going drag racing, pavement racing, off-road racing, don't matter. Take a new race fan. Create a new race fan. And remember this, you can't fix the whole world, but you can touch just one life. It's been the Mitch Walker Show with my very special guest, Mr. Chuck Becker. We want to have everyone have a safe week. Be safe, be nice to each other, and we'll see you next time. It's been the Mitch Walker Show right here on the Performance Motorsports Network. See ya.
You've been listening to The Mitch Walker Show on the Performance Motorsports Network. Stay tuned to Performance Motorsports Network for more race talk. For the latest motorsports news, visit racechaseronline.com. The Mitch Walker Show is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com. A member of the Scorpion Radio Group, Incorporated, and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either the Performance Motorsports Network or Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, the advertisers, or the marketing partners. Be listening again next week when the Mitch Walker Show returns on Monday night at 9:30 Eastern. Until then, stay tuned for more great motorsports programming on the Performance Motorsports Network. Sports Network. Sports Network. Sports Network. Sports Network. Sports Network.